All right. I am here with Gary Hines. Gary and I have worked together off and on in various capacities, referral relationships, different things like that throughout the years. But Gary has started basically it's an M&A firm, isn't it, Gary? That's kind of, I mean, I know you guys have several things going, but that's like your gusto right now is the merger and acquisition side of things. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, Carrie and I, Carrie Ball is my partner,
Yep.
and
Yep.
myself. We've been working in various projects for many years, and one of the ones that has really been a deep interest of ours is
Mm,
always been the M&A side. And then with one of our other managing directors, Rick Longo, he's been doing M&As for over 30 plus years in the insurance side, and
perfect.
Carrie and I have been doing it for a while here, and it's just there's so much going on in the insurance space on the merger and acquisition side, even to this day. And we just thought that we had a lot of opportunities and talents and information that we could bring out to the marketplace, because there is a lot of noise and you got to sift through it. And I think, Abe, what I find a lot of is that there's a lot of intimidation from
Hmm.
the agency perspective to even get involved in that conversation.
Right now,
And
especially, yeah.
we're trying to just really help that communication out, and help people along to find out what they believe they want to do when they grow up, whether they're 75 and ready to sell, and that's when they're
Yeah.
growing up, or whether they're in their young phases and still thinking about finding the right partner to grow and excel. So
Sure. So let walk me through just out of curiosity, and then so it's Hines Ball. Tell me the name of the company again. I'm sorry.
yep, Hines Ball Advisory Group.
Hines
And
Ball Advisory. Okay.
yep, we have various different platforms that we work through on the both the M&A brokerage side, as well as some independent agency side, and as well as technology.
Okay.
So we have various facets to the organization that we are building and working through, and our brokerage side is one of those key elements.
Mm,
And we do a lot of work with independent agencies of all size, and help them, find the next step that they want to do towards whatever that might be,
sure.
whether that's an internal perpetuation or whatever it might be. So we work through
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
questions. And
So let's talk about, because I mean the and I want to dive into more on the specifics that you guys can offer agencies. But give me a pulse update on what's, because I've been a little curious about this, right? Because we're in a crazy market. A lot of people that have been doing this way longer than me have said I've never seen anything like this, and that's kind of, just the theme overall is like nobody's really seen what's happening here before, in our career lifetimes, right? So walk me through what's happening in the M&A space right now, because it seems to me, and I'm no expert in this stuff, but it seems to me that right now people might be a little nervous about the valuations that agencies have been getting for the last several years, and kind of the investment money that has been out there, that it's been going around and scooping up agencies and different things like that. I mean, is the market still on fire, or are the buyers like really conscious and worried about the non-renewals and the shut off of the new business, and the moratoriums that are being placed all over the place? I mean, because there's a lot of agents that come to me daily and they're like, I can't find a place to put a policy. And then I had a buddy of mine down the street from my house who was like, can you help me try and find something? So I did. I went to search through lots of the markets that we have access to, and like I really couldn't replace his Allstate policy on his house because nobody was right. And I mean, this is like a sprinklered house. It's in a nice community. There's no fire danger to it, but we couldn't find a quote. So how does the factors at the agency level right now? How do those factor into current merger and acquisition? Not talk about people that are looking at 5, 10 year, perpetuation plans, but the people that are like, I want to sell now. How is this market impacting those deals?
so the word deal and
How
the
much
word
time do
buyer,
we
right?
have, right?
Well, there's so many different folks that we talk about. So I mean, let's talk
Right.
about the big broker deals,
Yeah,
right? That
yeah.
we that everyone is
Acrisure
talking about.
and everybody
Yeah,
else like that. Yeah,
and because that falls into your bucket of these giant valuations, right? And that
right.
question is people getting these multiples that are unheard of in the industry and so on and so forth. Well, I can tell you that my perception with my conversations with all these folks, and we do have conversations with them all on a regular basis,
Yeah.
is that they're still in the acquisition mode.
Okay.
They still want to find agencies to acquire and buy. It's just not going to be a scenario where it's just going to be like we'll gobble up anything depending, no matter what the scenario is, we're going to just gobble it up.
Right.
I think that that's what you kind of saw a few years back. But I
Sure.
will tell you too, the due diligence was, I watched them pass even a few years ago on many different agencies
Right.
because that it just didn't fit their model. But I think the model is tightening for them. They want to make sure
So
that
the
you're going to
scope of
fit
an
in.
acceptable agency is kind of narrowing that.
It is,
Okay.
but the finances are still there. They're still
Yeah. Right.
acquiring. And the funniest conversations I can tell you is that we always have the conversations with the brokers and say, okay, just want an update on your, what are you looking for? They give us that model, right? They say, okay, it's like they're building the clay model, and they're saying this is our perfect agency. And then we say, okay, well, we do have a couple agencies that are fitting outside of that model, and we'll just go ahead and make sure we don't, burden you with those. Well, wait a second, Gary. Wait a second. No, go ahead and send them over. So it's a very
Sure.
interesting conversation piece. They still want to look at everything. They still want to talk to everything. And there's so many elements to the business because when you're talking about large brokers, you're talking about large geographics, and they have different appetites for where they want to be. Believe it or not, there's still people that are acquiring folks in California, and they have a market for that because they want to work with those folks in California. There might be people that are out of the Southwest that are like they want to expand it in the Midwest because that's what they want to do. So there's all these different elements that really, it's from our perspective as an M&A broker, we have to understand those buyers and what they're doing on those large scales. Now, when you talk about buyer, this agency buyer, right?
Yeah.
Regional buyer or geographic, let's just talk about like
Sure.
say Atlanta. You're in
Right.
Atlanta and you're a Georgia buyer. That's a whole different animal about what they're looking for and what they're trying to acquire, and they may have a flip this particular component that they want to deal with. So it's again understanding all those elements to the various buyers. But I will tell you this: I do not believe that the noise that the brokers are completely gone out of the. I see that. Do I think there's a bigger opportunity now for the everyday agent to start doing some acquisitions? I think there is, because I think that they can dive in there, and
Yeah.
because maybe the valuations have come down a bit.
Mhm.
It's become more of a normalized scale, whereas before, when someone's buying something at a monster double digit multiple, there's no way that
Yeah.
Smith Agency and local regional market was going to even compete with that. But
Right.
that being said, I think that what you're almost going to see is the M&A market be even bigger than it was before, because there's just so many opportunities for all the various buyers to take place, and the ones that are lending, the banks that are lending want to lend. The ones that have the large cash reserves in the bank want to spend it. So that's where we're at, and that's really kind of what I'm hearing in the marketplace with all my conversations.
That's interesting. So just the opportunity looks a little different than it did a few years ago, but it's definitely still there. Is kind of the long and short of it then.
Yeah, even I would say if you're going to sit back and say, well, I'm going to wait till the market is what it was a couple of years ago, that isn't necessarily the right decision,
Yeah.
because we're
No.
still in a
How much
phenomenal
time do
market.
you have, right?
Well, and the insurance valuations are still, as high as they've been, right? As far as that goes. I mean, yes, there may be some peaks that existed a couple of years ago where it was slightly higher, but you paid more money for a Ford Bronco a year and a half ago when they were
Yeah.
limited quantity, and now it's come down, and you can actually get them for MSRP again. So
Right.
it's kind of that scenario is what I look at it as.
Sure, that's good analogy there. So, it's kind of obvious what you guys do. If I walk in and I'm like, "Hey, Gary, I want to sell my agency." I mean, you're going to take everything into consideration. You're going to go out and look for buyers. You're going to see where we fit in the model that you have. But walk me through, because that's not the only clientele that you serve, right? You're serving people who are looking for perpetuation planning and growth and different things like that. Walk me through everything that Hines Ball does for agencies.
Yeah, so because of our background in the agency world and what we've been involved in our past operations.
Agency
We
owners.
have, yes, yep.
Yeah.
We just have a very deep knowledge of what goes into the particular independent agency world, and so we can help out. I mean, we have so many relationships even on the technology side with all the various technology firms. But from the M&A side, it goes a little deeper, right? You hear all the time people talking about that you need to have a plan. Your plan should be you should be planning for 10 to 15 years down the road. I understand that, but lots of times the room is people that are 60, 65 that are already thinking about selling, and now you're telling them they should have had a plan 10 years ago.
Right.
I'm not here to beat anyone up. I mean, the reality is you've done your business, you've done it well. And what we like to try to do is we try to get people an understanding of where they stand in the particular marketplace as it fits right now. And that really gives them perspective on what they can accomplish if they want to go out to sell. Or is it not that they want to sell per se, but they're looking for the appropriate partner to help them and maybe their heir apparents, their kids, or a producer that they know can come into the business, and they want really to hand the reins to them, but they know that they can't do it alone, so they need another partner to come into the mix. There's so many different ways to skin that cat when you look at it. So we like to have those conversations. I think too, and this is, when you listen to M&A podcasts and you go out there and talk to M&A people and you go to classes at Big Eyes and stuff, lots of acronyms are thrown around and scary things are thrown around. And as a business owner that doesn't really dive too much into that, because you're only doing this necessarily once in your life, right? A lot of people,
Right. Yeah.
We don't want you to have a deer in the headlights look. There's no reason to be that way. I've had people tell me, well, I can't even consider selling right now until I clean up my company. And I'm like, well, what do you mean clean up your company? Well, I got my wife on payroll. I've got, my trucks on the books and things like
Fix, right?
these.
You and
These are
every
not
other insurance agency owner in the country.
exactly, Abe. I
Yeah.
mean, but these are the things that are maybe holding somebody back.
Yeah.
And then when holding back from even talking to a consultant or, although I've done consulting for 20 plus years in various business capacities, one thing I've always disliked about the consultants that I've ran into some is that they want to tell you everything you're doing wrong in life.
Mm.
And it's very easy to tell people this is wrong in your business, this is wrong in your business. Look, if you're looking to sell or perpetuate or plan for it, I'm not going to be the person to come in and tell you, hey, you got to rechange your entire company. And you've been doing it this way for 30 years, you got to completely change. No, what I'm going to tell you is this is how you operate. Here's opportunities that may assist you if you want to consider it. But our job as an M&A broker is really to match you with somebody that can fit your business model, assist your business model, and be willing to work through your business model, whatever that might be. So what I would say to most people out there that are even considering M&A side is don't be afraid to pick up the phone and talk to somebody about the opportunity. And if somebody is telling you if you're a 40-year agent, someone's telling you got to completely rechange your business model and come back and talk to them in a year, that probably isn't the right advice that you should be looking for. But
Yeah.
so
It depends on your
we
time frame, right? Like, if like you were saying,
well, it does.
there's a buyer for every seller, period, in the story.
Yes.
And so, if you're looking at it and you don't know where to go, then yeah, I mean, somebody like you and Carrie are the perfect people to talk to, because at least you can take a pulse on things and see, okay, these are my options at this time. Maybe if I implemented some changes, if I have more time that I'm willing to work with, then there would be other opportunities and the multiples could look like this in this current climate that we're in, and kind of do the evaluation on, is it a good time for me to sell, or should I give it another 2-3 years, or, is now just as good a time as any, and we're not going to gain much over the next few years by making any kind of changes, so to speak. So yeah, that's perfect. How do people get in touch with you guys?
With us directly, I mean, you could visit our website, which is hinesball.com. So that's Hines is Hines, not the ketchup, but Duncan Hines. So
Yeah.
HINESBALL.com. Or you can always call us directly. You can call me directly. Call me crazy. I'll give you my cell phone. So
Do
it's
it.
440-856-5111. But Abe, what I would say about our conversation is that just pick up the phone. Let's have a conversation.
Sure.
Talk to Carrie, Rick, myself, or anyone else on our team, and let's see where you're at in your planning stage, what you're thinking about doing, and we can kind of give you that direction of where you want to go and, possibly take the path. But don't be afraid to start the conversation. Don't be afraid that you have to go and clean up A, B, C, D, and E before you can have any conversation. I think that's what happens oftentimes.
Well, and I
Um,
think, through our process, because a lot of our listeners know that, years ago, a few years ago, not tons, a few years ago, we sold our retail agency. And it was like a lot of the things that you would think would be a big deal. It was just a matter of deleting it off of the Excel spreadsheet to reflect what the buyer is going to be acquiring. Because, yeah, your pickup truck's not going to be on the company, or your car's not going to be on the company expense sheet anymore, right? Your wife's payroll is not going to be on the company expense sheet. So it's just a matter of, being able to go through and back out those finances. And so, and I mean, not to dive into the specifics of the world, because I've done it once. Clearly, obviously you guys have way more experience in it than I do, but it's one of those things where, like, you think these obstacles can stop you. Really, it's just a matter of adjusting it to reflect what it's going to look like for your buyer. So it's really not the big deal that I think a lot of people make it.
yeah. And a big part of what we try to accomplish, Abe, is to reduce that remorse. And the remorse is on both sides, the buyer remorse and the seller remorse. We want to make sure that the individuals we're bringing together have the full picture of each other. So that way, as they move towards the next steps, I mean, it's really easy if you're a cash seller. There's the price, you're out the
Right.
door. That's very rare. We don't really see that in insurance too often, right?
Yeah.
Normally, someone's staying on and whatever the capacity might be for a while, and but there's always those types of relationships that you got to. It's very important to consider all of those aspects. So it's even more than the money component. But I think that we do a great job here to try to help you understand what do you look like, what does the buyer's market look like, and how you can come together and figure it out.
100%. Gary, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. I hope you come back, because things are changing so fast here that it's gonna. I'd like to do, maybe even like a quarterly update with you or something like that on what is happening in the acquisition M&A market. Because it's certainly changed from a few years ago, and like you said, the opportunity is still there. It's just different now. But I'd like to kind of keep a pulse on this, because this is something that impacts every single agency owner that exists in the country. Is the asset of your agency, most of the time is a bigger asset than your
It
house.
is.
And
Yep.
so it's probably, if you're like most insurance agency owners, it's probably the biggest asset that you own, which you can see what, the ballpark figure, what your agency is worth over at agencyvms.com. They're a sponsor of the show, so check them out. But it'll get you in there and kind of do the same thing Gary was talking about. Gary, we got to get you plugged in on Agency VMS as one of the folks to get, hooked up with when they
Sure.
can see their growth tools that are available to them. But and there's some new and exciting things that are going to be happening, so stay tuned on that. But I would like to do some kind of a like I said, regular update, because this is changing so rapidly. It would be really nice to have somebody like you to drop by and kind of let us know you have these conversations with these buyers every day. So to let everybody know, what's going on, and just kind of give a market update. Let's
Well,
do.
Abe, absolutely. I think it's great. And, I mean, this was our first rodeo into having a conversation and kind
Sure.
of introducing ourselves onto your show. But, Abe, there's just so many things to talk about. There's
Oh
so
man.
many
Yeah.
different genres to talk about. I know you interviewed a gentleman a few podcasts ago that was a younger guy, and he sold his agency after a couple of
Yeah.
years. And he was, I mean, that's a whole different storyline, right? He's only a couple
Right.
of years in, brand new agency, going through the growth rocket, rocketing through the roof. So there's so many different pieces and components that go into it. Nothing is cookie cutter when it comes to M&A, in my opinion. And I feel that all too often people try to make it cookie cutter. So we want to make sure we help everybody out and understand who they are and who the buyers are, and really bring it together in a symbiotic relationship. So I'd be happy to talk a little more, any more in depth. We can get into some more detailed examples and definitions and everything else, Abe. So I'd love to.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for your time, Gary.
Thanks, Abe. You have a great one.
You too.